This week, we'll wrap up Chamber of Secrets by analyzing Chapter 18, but first, the show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When you're at your best and not having to deal with a Dark Lord trying to overtake your school, you can do great things. But sometimes life, school, work, evil wizards get you bogged down, and you may feel overwhelmed or like you're not showing up in the way that you want to. Working with a therapist can help you get closer to the best version of you, because when you feel empowered, you're more prepared to get out of the spiraling that's going on in your head and take on everything life throws at you. Working with a therapist has helped me manage anxiety, deal with issues in my everyday life, and assist me in being a better person to others. A great therapist is like Marauder's map, helping you successfully navigate the path ahead. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Plus, you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge, because sometimes it takes trying a couple different therapists before you find the perfect match. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/MuggleCast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MuggleCast. Welcome to MuggleCast, your weekly ride into the Wizarding World fandom. I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Laura.
Our social media manager, Chloe, is joining us today. Welcome back, Chloe.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. Excited to be back.
Micah couldn't make it this week, so we're excited to have our Chloe sitting in.
I love that I'm the replacement. My voice isn't as sexy, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, it is. What are you talking about?
It's true. That's true. It's preference, I guess.
Sometimes there's too many men on this show, so it's a good thing to kick one out.
Oh, we got us talking like this all the time.
I like how you had to change your voice for men, like you aren't a man.
I'm giving people a taste of Micah.
Oh, okay.
When I do that, yeah.
I don't know if I could. Oh, there we go.
Whoa.
There you go. Just talk like Micah the whole time.
Pretty
Perfect.
good.
That would hurt so bad, and I have to give myself a double chill to do it.
Oh my God.
Micah loves us and misses us so much this week that he did hop into our Zoom before we started recording this morning. I know. It's like, Micah, he's like in a hotel room getting ready for the day. I'm like, Micah, let go of us. Okay.
He did show us the Micah chair, which I thought was relevant and important.
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, the Micah chair is it's a very old throwback. When we were spending time in hotel rooms together at various Harry Potter events, Micah would always gravitate to that one chair in the hotel room and sit there. Nobody ever sits in that chair.
You know the
except
one.
for Micah.
You know the one. And every hotel room has one. And
yeah.
It's very dad vibes. And also, every time we get DMs from a bunch of people all the time, whenever they're at a hotel, they send me a picture of the Micah chair. And I'm like, awesome. I'm going to start rating them.
You should. I did that
3
for a
out of
time.
5 Micah chair.
Yeah. So Micah showed us the Micah chair in his hotel room this weekend. And yeah, I never sit in Micah chairs. They're gross. Like the bed, the sheets get changed. The Micah chair, though? I don't want to know what's on the Micah chair.
they probably spray it down.
I like those chairs.
Ugh. Anyway.
Well, I was off last week and now I'm back. Yay.
Yes.
Nobody's going to be talking about my absence. I didn't call in during.
Were you in a Micah chair, Eric, during wherever you were?
I actually did sit in the one chair in our apartment that I rarely sit in. So I'm gonna claim that was an homage.
There you go.
We had it was Meg's birthday. We had a bunch of people over on Saturday, and it was a lot of people in our apartment. First time since the pandemic that we had any group of people.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, over. So, and especially in the new place, so that was nice. But it's so funny.
Happy birthday, Meg!
Thanks.
Yeah.
I will pass.
She's
that along.
amazing.
I will pass it along.
Please do.
So we have all caught up, and we both listened to last week's MuggleCast, and I finally had that listener experience of listening to the episode, and somebody will say something, and I'm like, oh, I know the answer to that question, and then I can't interact because I'm not recording a podcast.
So instead, he writes it in the doc for the next episode.
I was about to say, you got your vengeance just fine, Eric.
So listen, fam, we're gonna have a time. No. It was a great episode. I actually love loved getting Tyler back on. Obviously, that dude's going places. He's got like this whole, like, all of his updates were awesome. But I did want to touch on the discussion about whether the Horcruxes talk to one another and also whether Voldemort himself can feel it when a Horcrux is destroyed. And we know that in the Deathly Hallows movie, he absolutely can. He becomes more sort of unhinged every time, and just like a gasp. But in the books, that's not a thing. So I have two quotes. First from Half-Blood Prince, when Harry asks Dumbledore if Voldemort can feel it. Dumbledore says, and this is from Half-Blood Prince, chapter 23.
A very interesting question, Harry. I believe not. I believe that Voldemort is now so immersed in evil and these crucial parts of himself have been detached for so long, he does not feel as we do.
And then in Deathly Hallows, chapter 27, after the break-in at Gringotts, the book reads, this is when Voldemort is finally discovering that Harry is after his Horcruxes. His treasures, his safeguards, his anchors to immortality. The diary was destroyed and the cup was stolen. What if the boy knew about the others? Could he know? Had he already acted? Had he traced more of them? Was Dumbledore at the root of this? Dumbledore, who had always suspected him. Dumbledore, dead on his orders. Dumbledore, whose wand was his. Yet now, who reached out from the ignominy of death through the boy. But surely, if the boy had destroyed any of his Horcruxes, he, Lord Voldemort, would have known, would have felt it. He, the greatest wizard of them all. He, the most powerful. He, the killer of Dumbledore. And this goes on for a while. How could Lord Voldemort not have known if he himself, most important and precious, had been attacked, mutilated? True, he had not felt it when the diary had been destroyed, but he had thought that was because he had no body to feel, being less than a ghost. No, surely the rest were safe. The other Horcruxes must be intact. So the reason this quote is another sort of, additional quote that works for this argument is, by this time, Voldemort was back in his body when the ring was destroyed by Dumbledore the year prior, and he didn't feel it. So I think between those two quotes, we can definitively say, actually, no, Voldemort doesn't feel it when the Horcruxes get destroyed.
And that's interesting because it highlights another flaw in Voldemort's plan. You know, we know that he's underestimating the power of love and how that extended to Harry from his mother, how Harry is able to extend that to the rest of the school in book 7, right? But he's also clearly been leading with the assumption the entire time that he would know what was happening with his Horcruxes. And it sounds like he doesn't.
I can't think of a moment where a Horcrux that he made talk to him. They don't share information. They're kind of just total separate things.
And if this theory doesn't work, then we are also confused still about Tom Riddle and how he came back as like so a sentient being, like through the diary. That raises that issue as well. But I really loved this theory last week, and I'm kind of sad that it's been disproven.
Yeah, it's fun to speculate over.
Yeah, and I like the idea of even maybe the Horcruxes that aren't Voldemort, right? Maybe they can sense each other and Voldemort can't. Like that could still work.
The ring is talking
Voldemort
to the locket,
himself.
and the locket is talking to the diary, and the diary's
exactly.
But I feel comfort in the fact that when Harry is telling Tom Riddle how everything happened, that info will never get to regular Voldemort. Yeah.
Because technically they're the same being. That's the part that trips me up.
Yeah.
I also was texting Laura last night, and I was just thinking, at this point, I'm so over the author that canon doesn't matter to me. I'm like,
throw it all out.
Yeah, throw all the canon out, and I'm gonna make the decision. What did you say? I declare canon.
Yes.
Oh, do we have a sound effect for that this week?
We do have that, but we should save it maybe when we actually are declaring canon. You know?
Oh, it's not important enough. Dang.
Eric did do a good job. We'll how's that for a teaser? Everybody can anticipate it when we.
Okay. We a new sound effect for when that happens.
I will say, Chloe, I agree. I think that there are changes that can be made to the canon of these stories that will make them better. In some cases, not in all or even most cases, but I think this change that we saw in the movies made a little more sense, at least to me, because these are all pieces of the same person's soul. To me, it made more sense.
The movies did something right.
Yeah.
Well, in the movie, it makes more sense to see him become viscerally more
Yes.
unhinged and dangerous with every passing
Right.
thing. But think of it this way: if Book Voldemort knew or felt even the ring being destroyed, he would have spent all of Book 6, year 6 of Harry's,
That's true.
making more Horcruxes, which we know he can do because since being restored to his body, he made the Frank Bryce, was it Nagini, became a Horcrux
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
his return. So
That's true.
we know Voldemort can keep making them, and if he had any inkling at all, due to feeling it, due to a Horcrux talking to him, he would have acted against it, and there never would have been an end.
Yeah.
I just want to point out into the Wicked Wood, Becky's Discord comment. I hope there was a Horcrux group chat. Love.
You up?
Let's all change each other's names in our phones, like block it
To a different
book, diary,
Horcrux.
and then just do like a simulated chat.
What
and-
Horcrux do you identify as?
That's a great idea. We should do that.
I'm obviously the diadem.
You know those screenshots? Oh yeah, because you shine bright like diamonds.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, so that was it. But I'm very excited to be back on the show talking about the final chapter of Chamber of Secrets.
And for one last time for this book, it is time for a 7-word summary. And Eric, hopefully with the week off, you are refreshed and ready to
Oh,
give us
God.
a great starting word.
Have we started yet with Harry?
I don't think we have.
Yes! Once per book, everybody.
Accepts.
Dumbledore's.
Comforting.
Okay.
Okay, this is going somewhere.
Advice.
On.
Voldemort.
Here we go.
Hey, that went
See, I
well.
had a plan.
We were scared.
We're all
in the middle.
surprised.
Yeah.
We're all like, wow, that was coherent. It formed a sentence.
And next week, we will do a bit of a wrap up on Chamber of Secrets. The main focus of the episode will be Hogwarts Legacy, but we'll do a bit of Chamber of Secrets wrap up as well. And we will pick one of our 7-word summaries from Chamber of Secrets like we did for book 1, and we will redo it. It won't be this one, though. This one was solid.
Yeah.
I was about to wait. This one slays.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get started on chapter 18, Dobby's Reward. We last left the group as they're heading to Minerva's office, and they're a little apprehensive because they've just broken a bunch of rules. But they get to the office, and it turns out things are good. Dumbledore is returned, and in fact, Arthur and Molly are there to greet Ginny, and to everyone can, have the reunion that they deserve, and also get a little bit of answers. So obviously, Dumbledore is very happy that everyone is back and in one piece. And I just have to laugh because he's presumably been back to the school for some time. But unlike at the end of year 1, where Dumbledore is off at London, he returns back to the school. He realizes he should be with Harry, and then he pulls Quirrell presumably off of Harry and saves Harry's life. This time he did not go down to the chamber to save Harry. He just kind of went to Minerva's office and is having some tea.
Guess who's back? Back again. Dumpy's back. Tell a friend. Oh, wait, where's Harry?
I gotta laugh because Dumbledore gets a lot of, I think, goodwill credit for being like the headmaster when things go right here. But more than ever, this reread of this book is just like, what actually did Dumbledore do this year that deserves him, I don't know, feeling like he did something?
We have been making Andrew put in the work to defend
Dumbledore, and I'm tired of it.
I know.
Here's just my general thought, stepping outside of the storyline. You got to give Harry the action. You got to give him the attention. It's his story. It's he who will save the day. Should the child be doing it? No, but Dumbledore comes in with a couple of assists, and there's a loyalty test here too, which I think is meaningful. Let's also remember that earlier in the book, he told the minister, who has power over him, that getting rid of Hagrid and himself would do exactly nothing to solve the threat at the school. And then he was kicked out. So
I don't get your loyalty point. Why would he have to test Harry's loyalty? Isn't he already super loyal?
He doesn't have to, but I'm just saying from a plot perspective, having Fawkes come to his aid, the sword, and then later in this chapter, oh, am I a real Gryffindor? Yes, you're a real Gryffindor, and here's why. That's the loyalty test that was set up.
I mean, Harry would be dead without Fawkes. It's true.
Yeah.
Just the series would have been over.
And as for why Dumbledore didn't go down to the chamber, he's 150. He's probably got some gnarly arthritis. Can you imagine him sliding down all those pipes? I don't think so.
Now there's a canon answer.
Dumbledore's old.
I'm too old for this. He's 150. It's okay.
Well, Dumbledore is being described as having, remember, 5 years from now, he has perfect breaststroke when he swims into the cave. So he's lithe. He can move around. The interesting thing for me about Dumbledore in this whole end of the story is that it does bring in, of course, this is Harry's story. Like, of course, I get it. But as Harry goes through what happened and how it happened, Dumbledore is able to further give some insight. So Dumbledore's the one that breaks the ice after Harry tells his whole story about everything. And bless Harry, he leaves out the part about Ginny in the diary. Dumbledore nevertheless is like, okay, so you tell me, how was it that Lord Voldemort came to control Ginny? And everyone gasps and everyone's shocked. So Dumbledore did know ultimately what was going on. So are we saying that was his choice to just let Harry face Voldemort just like he did the first year alone?
I do think it's like super irresponsible, his absence this entire year. It's like you know that everyone's in danger. It's obvious. And he knows more than anyone else does because he always knows more than anyone else does. So I do think it's irresponsible, and letting some 12-year-olds just figure it out seems not like the right choice. But I think Andrew's point, this is Harry's book. I think that's that's what's important.
It works.
And Harry would have done it. Harry would have done it anyway. I think that's another thing that we forget. Like, Harry wants to be the hero and wants to prove himself. And even if Dumbledore was more hands-on, I think that Harry would still want to go down to the chamber, find Ginny and be, the hero that he always wants to be.
Yeah.
This might be something that Harry digs up at some point in therapy, but maybe one reason that he has a saving people thing, want to be the hero thing, is because his first introduction into the wizarding world was your mom saved your life. And after hearing that, he wants to prove himself and tell everybody, I can look out for myself. I can take care of myself. So I wonder, too, if part of Harry's drive simply comes from wanting to prove himself as a meaningful member of the wizarding world.
Harry needs so much therapy. So much therapy. Everyone in the Harry Potter series.
Yeah, mostly because of Dumbledore, right? And Dumbledore's choices.
Yeah. Well, on Dumbledore keeping his distance, didn't we have that theory one time that maybe Dumbledore's doing that purposely in case Voldemort is able to read Harry's mind and then he can overhear what Dumbledore's saying? And so I think that's valid even this early on.
Yeah. Well, and also Dumbledore knows about the prophecy. Harry doesn't know about it at this point, but Dumbledore could be thinking, at any time, this prophecy could manifest itself, right? Like, we don't really know what the timeline is going to look like at this point in the series about Harry and Voldemort's final confrontation.
It's interesting to see how Dumbledore uses the info he has, though, because he still positions himself as like the greatest know-it-all about Voldemort, all things Voldemort. He says not only that later in the chapter, he says definitively that Tom Riddle was the last remaining descendant. It's like, wow, you really paid close attention. We know Dumbledore went for years tracing the lineage of Voldemort. But he also says, to everyone's astonishment, that Voldemort currently, as in post-Quirrell Voldemort, is currently hiding, not hanging out. Choice of phrase matters. In the forests of Albania.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what interests me the most, said Dumbledore gently, is how Lord Voldemort managed to enchant Ginny when my sources tell me he's currently hiding in the forest of Albania. So that works in several levels. First, it does differentiate between the diary Tom and the current Voldemort. I think it also speaks to how this was a separate entity, although the same person. But yeah, that whole hiding out in Albania line is a remarkable like trump card that Dumbledore just knows that about where Voldemort's last remaining like bodiless essence is that used to be him.
I do wonder, Dumbledore mentions, my sources tell me he's currently hiding in Albania. Who are his sources?
It's Aberforth, isn't it? Just always. Anytime there's something Dumbledore knows, it's all Aberforth.
It's always the source.
Yeah.
I actually looked around a bit online to see if anybody had any thoughts on this, and there doesn't seem to be a conclusive answer. Options include dark creatures had informed him, who had been Dumbledore's spies on other occasions. The fact that Quirrell came across Voldemort while traveling in Albania. There's a few different options here. I don't think we ever get a definitive answer. It doesn't seem to be as simple as his double agent Snape.
I completely agree with some of the dark creatures, animals talking to each other. Okay, I have a headcanon that Dumbledore already has formed the Order, or has begun forming the Order, or he has at least 2 or 3 people that eventually become the founding members, or not the founding, but the refounding members of Order of the Phoenix that he is talking to on the regular, like Kingsley and Dawlish. And I was even thinking maybe Mr. and Mrs. Weasley are brought in pretty soon because they are super connected to Dumbledore early on. And Mr. and Mrs. Weasley are there at the end of this book, for example. So maybe they're already forming the beginnings of a secret network. And also Dumbledore is revered even with creatures that don't like humans, like centaurs, like giants, like goblins. He's formed these connections by being nice to them and negotiating and that sort of thing. So I think that that's also another way that he knows all, sees all. I'm sure Dumbledore has like a network of spies, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, I like that.
I think
Thinking
that's
about
right.
a pre-ordered network. Yeah, that sounds right. And the interesting thing, too, if we wanted to connect the threads, Andrew, you mentioned that's pretty much where Wormtail finds Voldemort, the forests of Albania. And I feel like the line that comes to mind is like, you can find Voldemort, like, if you know where to go. Because like Peter asks other rats, or whatever, and eventually finds this source of like among the animals, they know that there's this unnatural entity of consciousness that's like sharing their lives. Although Voldemort says it kills, he says that nobody lasts very long. It's sort of a temporary thing to share the body of some of these creatures in the forest. But actually, Albania is also where Bertha Jorkins goes missing in 2 years' time. She was on vacation in Albania, which I think we'll have a separate conversation in Goblet of Fire, learning more about Albania, its history, its people.
Yeah, why Albania?
Well, I hope that Albanians don't feel maligned here because that's Voldemort's hangout.
All bad things happen in Albania.
Maybe it's just that amazing of a place to vacation.
But Dumbledore bringing this around to where Voldemort is and how he knows everything about him might also ingratiate, like you were saying about forming the Order of the Phoenix. I had the idea that Dumbledore isn't above using this opportunity where Molly and Arthur's daughter has just been attacked or possessed all year to recruit them to the Order.
Ooh.
That's cool.
So like that could be used to be like, hey, we could use your help for making sure this doesn't happen to somebody else's kid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Albania looks really nice, Laura. Laura just sent all of us a link to the Albania Google results, and it looks really excellent. So
Yeah.
if I was Voldemort, I'd also go to Albania.
I mean, I wasn't expecting the beach. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Me neither.
Rat Voldemort is just on the beach sun tanning.
Yeah, I too was looking at it on Google Maps, and I mean, it's near Greece too. Greece is a great place to vacation.
Yeah.
Maybe Voldemort just wanted to work on his tan. I
In
mean, he's
Greece?
very pale. He could tan up a little bit.
Is this like Call Me by Your Name, but nobody says his name? So it's like,
Oh,
Don't Call Me by My Name.
don't call
the
me
new
by-
movie.
I mean, I'm sure it's a big country. I'm sure there's forests and
Yeah,
things, but-
for sure. I am sensing a Photoshop opportunity here, though.
Mm.
oh my God.
Sorry,
Laura.
Chloe.
No, give it to me. What are you sensing?
Voldemort on a beach in Albania tanning himself.
I don't think anyone wants to see shirtless Voldemort, but let me see if I can make this happen for you.
Doesn't Harry get correspondence from Dumbledore once? And it's like on a tropical bird or something, and he pictures Dumbledore with like suntan lotion. Or no, I'm combining.
Well, no, that was
Sirius he gets
Black.
the letter from. But Dumbledore, he does, the topic does come up at one point. What did the teachers do during summer? And he pictures like a nasal strip or something on Dumbledore, suntan lotion.
Mm-hmm. I hope McGonagall has a secret life in like the Bahamas.
Oh, I definitely hope so. So here's an interesting characterization of Voldemort from none other than Dumbledore. Harry replies, "It was this diary," picking it up and showing it to Dumbledore, "Riddle wrote in it when he was 16. And it says, Dumbledore took the diary from Harry and peered keenly down his long crooked nose at its burnt and soggy pages.
Of course, he was probably the most brilliant student Hogwarts has ever seen. He turned around to the Weasleys, who were looking utterly bewildered.
I mean, Dumbledore gives Tom Riddle a little bit of credit here. He says he was probably the most brilliant student Hogwarts has ever seen, and I can't help but equate this to Ollivander's, "He will do great things after all. He who must not be named did great things, terrible things."
Yeah.
Great.
I did think his choice of the word brilliant was very interesting here. I mean, he's saying this right in front of Ginny.
And Arthur and Molly. And
It's
like
super insensitive.
Well, and Harry.
Super insensitive.
Yeah, everybody. He's got a whole audience there. But I was also wondering, maybe he's replying to Harry figuring it out. He's calling Harry figuring it out brilliant.
I think he's calling Tom Riddle brilliant. And I think that it's a weird choice of words because the connotation usually when we use brilliant is positive, but he's not wrong. Tom Riddle is brilliant and what he's done is brilliant magic. And I think it's insensitive, but truthful. And I just think that Dumbledore cares way more about like reflecting right now on the fact that this is like a crazy bit of magic that no one's ever seen before, rather than being like, oh, we're sorry, which he should have done. But
Molly should have been like, brilliant. My kid almost died.
yeah.
You SOB.
This is the same person who says, not my daughter, you bitch. She should have had another.
I was like, that's my daughter, you bit, kind of.
Yeah, that's my daughter, you bitch.
Yeah, like that's what he did. Actually, talking about the diary, I had this thought again while listening to last week's, but weren't you guys asking why the diary did seem to do more than the other Horcruxes?
Mm-hmm.
Because I seem to remember, as they're wearing the locket, it gradually is weighing on them. And I feel like by the time the trio gets to open the locket, I feel like that Horcrux has sort of grown in power or capability. I mean, it in the movie, especially, it literally explodes, but it's able to recreate some visions. It recreates the Harry and Hermione being romantic for Ron and things like that. I wonder if they aren't in fact all that way, where the closer they are in human contact, the more they can start to kind of seep in and possess. But Ginny's diary it was the whole year that she poured that into her. So
yeah.
So had the trio worn the locket for longer, but at that point they knew what they were dealing with. It maybe could have gained its own form. All the Horcruxes could have gained their strength the way that the diary did.
I like that. And I think you're probably right, but I think it would have taken years for the locket to do the same thing or for the diadem to do the same thing, because Ginny is physically writing her feelings, her hopes, her desires, her sadness into the diary, which is she's literally bearing her soul to the diary.
Yeah, there's a reason they call it that.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So I think it was a much, much quicker process. I'm not sure how one would bear their soul to a locket. I think that it would have to slowly take bits and pieces over a very long time. So I think that it was probably only practical to do it this way for the diary.
I'm almost second guessing myself about the locket now, because it was with Creature for many, many years. And we learned that it really curbed his personality, kind of made him that and the fact that he lost Regulus at the same time as he got the locket, it kind of just warped Creature, but it never tried to possess him or take him over that we know of. So I don't think Creature really suspected an entity inside it necessarily, and house elves can usually sense that kind of a thing. Think of Dobby warning Harry about the diary at the beginning of this book. So And it is said, I think in this chapter too, that Dobby knew specifically that the diary was young Voldemort before he was Voldemort.
Right.
So the fact that Creature never suspected that in the locket, plot hole or not, means that maybe the locket couldn't become itself fully, or couldn't be its own thing the way the diary could. But then that just goes to me to say, maybe it's because the diary was the first Horcrux Voldemort made. And I tend to think of them as being exponential. So when teenage Voldemort makes the first Horcrux, it splits his soul in half. But then the next time he makes a Horcrux, it's half his soul that remains. So he's essentially quartering. So every Horcrux has less power, or less of like his overall soul quota. Like when he makes another Horcrux, it's not like 17% of his soul goes from one Horcrux to the other. It's like you're splitting it. You're becoming less and less human. Sorry for the math, everybody.
Who made that point last week about, the most of Voldemort's soul being in the diary?
I think it was
It
Tyler.
Tyler?
Probably
Yeah,
Tyler.
that
Laura.
was like such a mind blow moment for me, because I was thinking about it and I was like, of course it'd be the most powerful one because it's the first. Whereas Nagini probably has like such a tiny bit of Voldemort's soul inside her because he split it so many times.
Well, and then think about, so we're going to get to Harry in a minute. Think about the last Horcrux Voldemort ever made. Well, no, he made Nagini after this, but the part of Voldemort's soul that's in Harry, he didn't have much soul left by that time, right before he died and right before Harry defeated him. But the little bit of Voldemort that did attach itself to the nearest living thing, aka baby Harry, spoilers for Deathly Hallows, was enough to give Harry Parseltongue. Dumbledore says that
It's true.
was something that was transferred there. So, and that's not nothing. Barely anybody can speak Parseltongue. There are still these very potent little things that Harry can do as a result of that little bit of Voldemort's soul. No bit of Voldemort's soul is ever going to be tame or safe.
Right. Still going to be very, very powerful. But I agree with the original point that Tom Riddle's diary is probably the most powerful Horcrux.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting that it gets the most powerful Horcrux is destroyed in book 2. And we don't even know it yet.
I love it.
It's so true. And if we want to get like really meta just for a second, I'm wondering about the weight of Voldemort's soul carries in the first place. How much soul does someone like Voldemort actually have, who was created not out of love, but out of a love potion? Like, does he have just as much soul as Harry does, for example? Is it like a different type of soul? Because in my brain, his soul is powerful because he is powerful, but it is not like as rich or as much soul as someone like Harry would be. This is a lot, but I just don't think that if Harry created, well, he would never, but if he created a Horcrux, I think that he would have a lot more soul to give.
That's an interesting question. Seeing a soul as like a whole thing that Dementors can suck out of you, for instance. I like to think everybody has one. Like everybody has the exact
finite amount of
to
soul.
work with.
Sure.
Sure. But I can see what you mean as far as your like the nourishment of the soul. Things like friends, laughter, friendship, love
exactly
would make your soul healthier. But we'll have plenty of time in the future to talk about Horcruxes. I think because we're going through the books. And Dumbledore at one point speculates what it would take Voldemort to merge his Horcruxes. Which last week you guys were mentioning, could the little Tom Riddle go off and find regular old man Voldemort, crusty Voldemort, and merge with him? Would they be rivals? There's some really interesting question there. It's like, would they race each other to the top, being they're essentially the same beings? But I digress. So Dumbledore tells Harry, he says, you can speak Parseltongue. Oh, sorry, Andrew, do you want to?
Yeah. You can speak Parseltongue, Harry, said Dumbledore calmly. And by the way, every time Dumbledore speaks calmly like multiple times this chapter, and every time I hear that word with Dumbledore in front of it, I think of the Goblet of Fire movie moment. But anyway, because Lord Voldemort, who is the last remaining descendant of Salazar Slytherin, can speak Parseltongue. Unless I'm much mistaken, he transferred some of his own powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Not something he intended to do, I'm sure. And then Harry says, Voldemort put a bit of himself in me? He said, thunderstruck. It certainly seems so.
We know from later in the books that Dumbledore didn't necessarily really know Horcruxes specifically were at play until today, until this diary was brought straight in. He tells Harry as much, if we can believe it. There are some anachronisms, like Dumbledore Slughorn in one of the previous memories tells Tom Riddle that Dumbledore is particularly fierce about avoiding the topic of Horcruxes being taught in school. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not 100% true, but my question is, can we trust Dumbledore that he's telling, that he's not being like omitting a lie here when he says, oh yeah, you know, like a bit of his soul came into you, or a bit of himself came into you. Is Dumbledore lying to Harry here? Does Dumbledore really like know more about this? And can we finally up our Dumbledore lie count, which is only at 8? At 8!
It's weird. It's like he's not as bad as y'all make him out to be.
No, he's awful.
Awful is a strong word.
Ugh.
All I think about when you're reading this is how Delphi ends up being actually the last survivor of Salazar Slytherin and the last Parseltongue. But we just talked about how canon doesn't really exist and it's a figment of my imagination. So I also think this kind of negates the point, and maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but is it just Slytherin's line that speaks Parseltongue? I thought it was an ability that other people could have. It's just really, really rare.
Well, and we have to remember you can easily speak Parseltongue yourself if
Of
you really
course.
want to. So.
Of course. Well, if you're Ron Weasley.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's only one Ron who can pull that off.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever established that only descendants of Slytherin can do it. But at the same time, the only people that we see really do it, apart from Ron just mimicking what he's heard, are descendants of Slytherin and Harry, who got the power transferred to him. So I don't know that the canon weighs in one way or the other.
In my head, Merlin can speak Parseltongue. I don't know if that's real at all, but...
Well, and he was a Slytherin, so...
I know.
He at least has the house affiliation.
To get back to Eric's question, though, is this a lie of omission? I think we do see more info in Snape's worst memory that Dumbledore could have offered Harry, but of course it's when the time is right,
Yeah, and I think that Dumbledore actually gives Harry a very age-appropriate explanation about Horcruxes here.
Yes.
Without getting into what a Horcrux is, how it's made, what Voldemort's master plan is, or at least what he suspects it to be at this point. He's literally telling him, yeah, he transferred a bit of himself into you, which is why you can do these things. That is the truth. Yeah. Ultimately. I mean, if you're thinking about how you talk to young children about complex issues, you try to simplify it so that it's accessible, but you also try not to lie about it, right? Like that, I know, is a common concern for parents, is like figuring out how to talk to their young children about the difficult things in the world and how to do so in an age-appropriate way. I think Dumbledore accomplishes that here.
So you're actually giving Dumbledore a compliment.
I am.
When I ask you to up, I ask you to up the lie count, and you're like, I can't do it. He's treating this.
Not here.
Yeah.
There are other times where we can up the lie count, and I think we're going to see that as we get into books 3 and 4.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think the further in the book series we go, honestly, the worse Dumbledore gets, because as we unfold all the things. But I will say, Dumbledore in this chapter specifically is exactly what Harry needs. He is comforting. He says what he needs to say without letting on too much or scaring Harry. Harry's 12. Let us not forget, he's 12 years old. And he says exactly what Harry needs to hear. And I will 100% give Dumbledore credit for that, because Harry doesn't get enough moments where people are like, I care about you. Let me tell you this thing. Let me compliment you. Let me comfort you. I think that he needed that in this moment.
And spoiler alert, this is why he's my MVP of the week. This is exactly why.
Wow, big surprise.
We'll
We're all
revisit
very
that later.
surprised about that choice, Andrew. Nobody
I'm
saw that
shocked.
coming. We're going to pivot to talking about Lucius Malfoy, who's a big role in this chapter. But first, we have another ad.
Yes. And actually, Dumbledore learns in this chapter he's got to look for a new DADA professor. Albus, have you heard of our sponsor, Indeed? Hiring for your business can feel harder than finding a DADA professor who will last longer than a year. But now I actually look forward to hiring because I use Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. I love Indeed's Instant Match feature because Indeed does the hard, tedious work for you. Just sponsor a job and boom. Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. It's great news for anyone who's got to hire someone before the next school year begins. Dumbledore. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you'll only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/MuggleCast to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/MuggleCast. Indeed.com/MuggleCast. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Before we jump into the next part of our discussion, did you three see the AI art created depicting Voldemort on a beach in Albania in our Discord?
I did.
Scroll up a little bit.
What?
You'll see this.
It's horrific.
Court found this.
Oh my goodness.
And disturbingly, Court says somebody had already searched for this before. She wasn't the one who
this
came up with this initial piece of art.
When did Voldemort become a daddy? I'm confused.
Yeah, so let me describe it for listeners. He's in like a stone white rocking chair. He's ripped. He's shirtless on a beach wearing like John Lennon-like sunglasses. He's got teeth. He's got a bit of a nose. And the weather looks great.
I cannot stop looking at this because I'm horrified and simultaneously.
But Chloe, now you can just post this on social media. I mean, give credit to
What?
the bot, but
It's horrifying.
Chloe's like, we'll lose followers if we post this. We cannot post this.
What I will say though,
Sexualizing Lord Voldemort.
I really feel like the face is so much closer to what I imagine Voldemort to look like than what we get in the movies.
it's more skeletal.
His nose
Yeah.
is terrifying.
Yeah.
If you zoom in
It's
here, it's like
awful.
half off. I'm gonna vomit.
Well, and he needs that nose to hold his sunglasses up, so he better not get
right,
rid of any more
right.
of that nose.
I cannot. They made him so ripped. This is like steroid level ripped.
And it almost looks like his beach towel hanging over the back of his chair has the Hogwarts crest on it, which I think would just be incredible.
I do appreciate that the chair is made of bones. I do appreciate that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah. Let's call it.
so scared.
Anyway, well done, AI. You are, you just saved Chloe like 20 minutes, though I don't know if she's going to post
I am
this.
not posting that. No,
Chloe was
I will
terrified
fight
on
back.
camera. Okay,
I'll-
never mind.
I will post it on. No, I'll post it, but I'm just know that I personally, every bone in
You
my
object
body is
to
telling
this.
me to not do it.
We
Yeah,
understand.
Wow.
Make that the caption.
Chloe
I
did
didn't
not
want
want
to
to
post this,
post.
but
Not approved by Chloe.
Hey, maybe MuggleCast needs a Finsta where we can post stuff like this.
Oh, good, another account for me to run.
Oh, yeah. Could you do that for us, Chloe? Thanks. Yeah. So we know that throughout the entire school year, Ginny was writing in the diary. The diary was making her do these attacks, slowly getting more and more of her energy. But if we want to look for a second culprit, person even behind that happening, it's Lucius Malfoy. And he comes in to Dumbledore's office, and it is actually revealed that, well, here he pieces it together, really, that it was in fact Lucius's doing, that it was the day back in Flourish and Blots, that he used the diversion of fighting with Arthur to sneak in the book. I just rewatched the movie last night too, and it happens in the movie. It's really clever how that is all done. But even Dumbledore speculates that, oh, wouldn't it be a shame if Arthur Weasley's daughter, Arthur Weasley, doing all of these Muggle artifact raids and making sure there's these no dark objects, was in fact caught politically with his daughter having killed Muggleborns. So there's very much a clear motive here, and Dumbledore just kind of like, he's not going to take Lucius in, but he basically says no more Voldemort school things should find their way into innocent hands. It's just like, wow, this dude totally plotted this. This dude totally intended for this to happen.
Yeah. And he has some nerve walking into Hogwarts and being like, why you back, Dumbledore? I mean, shouldn't he think like Dumbledore's got him figured out at this point? How could he not think something must be up if Dumbledore is back?
Oh, and Dumbledore is back. And not only that, he does have his number. He says, oh, interestingly enough, all the other governors thought that you would curse their families. And Lucius has like the gall to be surprised by that. He's like, huh? You talk to me like that? And it's like, well, you did you're guilty of everything here.
The audacity that rich white men have in the real world clearly translates to the wizarding world, because Lucius, and this is true, has enough money to make any of his problems go away. So of course he's walking proud and loud into Dumbledore's office. And is there any consequences for him after this?
Nope.
No,
very little.
The only consequence is that he gets removed from the Board of Governors, which is fine because he still has the freaking Minister of Magic in his back pocket until book 6.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's a good point. And that whole time you were talking about that, Chloe, I heard the Kesha song, Rich White Straight Men, because you're like, why do rich straight men? It's like,
I'm so glad.
It's so good. But yeah, I mean, the level of privilege here is astounding. And Lucius faces no real consequences for this. But still, it's important, I think, for the audience. This is like a very teaching moment for me when I was young and reading this book for the first time, to really see the depths of the plot. Like, here's a man who wanted to discredit his rival professionally and was willing to stop at nothing to make sure it happened. Now, this is a source of Voldemort being very disappointed in Lucius too, for being so reckless with what Lucius doesn't even know was a piece of his soul. So yeah, Lucius is in hot water later for this act. Maybe that's a consequence. But for right now, he gets to walk out.
Lucius is also delusional for thinking, oh, I'm just going to go up against Dumbledore. I'll be totally fine. Like, that is crazy to me. I think Lucius is probably one of probably the character I hate the most, even more than Voldemort in the series. Not Jason Isaacs, though, because he's my baby and I love him.
He's great.
But Lucius Malfoy is like so despicable. And he's so real. And that's the part about him that Lily grinds my gears. Because Voldemort in my head, I'm like, he can't exist. But Lucius exists everywhere.
Yeah.
It makes your skin crawl to read about it and to be like, oh,
I know a lot of Lucius.
I've seen that happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he's also probably the type of person who's never been told no in his life. He comes from a rich family. He always gets his way. And that's why he struts in and is like, why are you back here, Dumbledore?
Well, we see that exact thing in Draco until he gets knocked down a few pegs. I think by the 4th book, Draco has less of this, but he also has never been told no either.
Yeah.
So Draco has the same attitude.
Well, even in this chapter, I think it's noted that Draco's acting quieter because he knows Harry saved the day.
Dude.
And mudbloods are no longer being petrified or potentially killed.
Right. And there is an interesting connecting the threads here between Chamber of Secrets and Half-Blood Prince, specifically as it relates to the Malfoys, father and son, and Dumbledore. We know that Lucius is single-handedly responsible for getting Dumbledore removed from Hogwarts, albeit temporarily in this book. But then in Half-Blood Prince, Draco plays a pretty big part in getting Dumbledore removed from the school permanently.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when Draco is confronted with the moment where he is going to get to do what his father would have loved to have done years ago, he can't do it. And Snape has to step in for him. So it's just interesting comparing these confrontations between the Malfoys with Dumbledore between this book and book 6.
The context of Lucius and Jason Isaac's amazing performance, especially as Lucius, just gives Draco so many layers and makes you feel so much worse for Draco and also understand him so much more. And I really appreciate that. And it makes me even madder that Draco didn't have a redemption arc. Well, I guess he did in The Cursed Child, but didn't have a redemption arc that we saw because there's so much setup to see Draco as the anti-hero, see Draco as the one that, comes back and realizes and is more like his mother, and it just never comes to fruition, and it drives me cuckoo bananas.
They tried to give him a moment in Deathly Hallows Part 2, but it got cut.
Oh, still not over that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So it actually is Dobby that seems to indicate to Harry what exactly happened here. And I just find this to be, I guess, a satisfying conclusion to Dobby's arc in this book. I like that Dobby is now free. Of course, I like that. He's now going to be an ally to Harry moving forward. And, it's good to have different creatures on your side with different capabilities, all the same. But Harry does the right thing. And it's also very tricky, very clever how he passes the sock on to Lucius to pass to Dobby.
And we can't forget, too, that Dobby, he is still, prior to the sock incident, he is still a slave to the Malfoy family. And he is literally still beating himself while he's frantically pointing between Lucius and the diary and looking at Harry with this very pointed expression of like, this is the guy, this is what happened, this is how this all came to fruition, Harry. And he's literally like punching himself as he's doing this. So it just speaks to his character and his character's moral compass that he's putting himself through this, putting himself honestly in a lot of danger by doing this to make sure that Harry can connect the dots here.
I think this is finally when we see the Dobby that we fall in love with, by the end of the series. This is when Dobby becomes a G for all of us, because he's like, yes, he's hurting himself, and we see how much he cares about Harry, and we see the situation that he's in, but he's also putting Harry in so much danger throughout the book, and frankly being annoying that we're like, oh my God. And this is, I think, the switching point where it's like Dobby is free. Dobby told Harry what Lucius did, and this is the moment we're all like, okay, now we're obsessed with him.
Yeah. It's such a great scene in the movie too. I did have a question about a couple lines here. So Dobby does throw Lucius backwards. He kind of falls down the stairs. He ends up in a crumpled heap, and Dobby says to Lucius, "You shall go now. You shall not touch Harry Potter. You shall go now." And then it says Lucius Malfoy had no choice. What was Dobby going to do to Lucius next? Any guesses? Throw him across the room again? Kill him? I wonder how much worse it was going to get.
Yeah. Maybe take him somewhere, like away.
Take him out back.
Take him out back.
Dude's going to go in the
Show
street.
his boss.
He's going in the alley.
This does point, though, to another moment in the series and in canon where house elf magic is clearly very powerful and free. And maybe that's why wizards are so scared of free house elves. Just a theory, because we've seen that house elf magic can inflict real injury and damage on wizards, and they don't need wands.
Yeah. And it's almost like the wizards are afraid that they might be treated badly by the house elves. I wonder why they think that.
Little revolution.
Final point here on Lucius. Do we think that it is... I'm not like trying to forgive him or like apologize for him, but seeing as how Voldemort gave him this diary, it's a diary that very actively like seeks to open the chamber. Like the diary was always meant to possess somebody into opening the chamber. That's exactly what Tom Riddle said in the last chapter, that it's supposed to continue Salazar Slytherin's noble work. Can Voldemort really be upset that Lucius did this? Given that it had to come out sometime, that diary was always sort of made to be at higher risk than all the others because it's literally causing events to happen that will draw a lot of scrutiny.
Voldemort's not reasonable with his followers. And I think that he's very much the type of character to put things in motion, put the diary in Lucius's hands and just expect him to succeed, right? Expect him to ultimately reach the desired endpoint, which is continuing Slytherin's legacy, getting Muggleborns out of the school, etc. And I don't really think Voldemort cares about the particulars of the plan and how it manifests, as long as it manifests the way he wants it to. And if it doesn't, then he's very happy to let someone like Lucius be the fall guy for that. We see that later in the series too. So
I do think he gives Lucius more allowances than his other followers. I think that the amount of mistakes Lucius Malfoy makes compared to the other followers is actually higher. But because Lucius has so much money and influence, Voldemort knows that keeping him around is more important, and his family as well. Yeah.
He eventually gets his fill of it, though, because by the end of the series, Lucius is he's in some hot water with Voldy.
Yeah, but he still doesn't kill him, and I feel like he kills so frequently his followers when they don't do what he wants.
But I guess to extend your point, Chloe, you're also saying that Lucius, I'll start using Lucius because I know everybody else here is able to influence people around him, so that's why Voldemort keeps him around. So by extension, got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, before we get to some odds and ends, one of our newest sponsors is back to sponsor this week's episode, ZocDoc. Let's say you're trying to find a cause for your symptoms like losing the bones in your arms, Harry, and you almost resort to texting your group chat to get your friends' opinions. That's not healthy. You're extremely unlikely to find quality medical advice in your group chat, but you can find it from a doctor on ZocDoc. ZocDoc helps you find expert doctors and medical professionals that specialize in the care you need and deliver the type of experience you want. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. No more doctor roulette or scouring the internet for questionable reviews. With ZocDoc, you have a trusted guide to connect you to your favorite doctor you haven't met yet. One of the features I love most is you can see a doctor's average in-office wait times, meaning the amount of time you'll actually be sitting in the office waiting to be seen. I think we'd all prefer to not be waiting around to be seen, so I really appreciate this feature. But that aside, ZocDoc is the opposite of most healthcare sites that I've seen. This one is simple, sleek, and fast. It has modern features too, like being able to track when you should schedule another appointment with, say, a dentist, so that you can stay on top of your healthcare. So definitely check this site out. It's very cool, very helpful. Go to ZocDoc.com/MuggleCast and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/MuggleCast. ZocDoc.com/MuggleCast. And we have links to all of today's sponsors in the show notes. And now let's get to some odds and ends.
So in a kind of maybe a throwback to year one, this year also ends with special points awarded to Harry and Ron. In fact, 400 total points. Gryffindor again wins the House Cup because no other house had any chance to earn this many points to try and catch up and fend them off. I think at this point, every other house at school just has to be like, let's get an extra 300 or 400 points above Gryffindor just in case Dumbledore pulls this crap again.
Right, start early. Or how about this? How about they save the school? You ever think about that? Slytherins, Hufflepuffs, you save the school, then you'll win. It's just that simple.
You be Harry Potter. You be the chosen one.
You be the chosen, with special powers. Yeah.
I
So
have such strong feelings about this.
Go off. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
It's 1000% favoritism. And also, anytime in the entire series points are awarded, I'm like, this makes no freaking sense. Where is the scale? Where is, the point guidelines here? Because Snape's out here giving 10, taking away 20. McGonagall's out here taking away 50, giving 50. And then Dumbledore's like 200 freaking points at the end of Chamber of Secrets. And it doesn't even align what Dumbledore did last year, because Dumbledore last year also gave a bunch of points to Ron, Harry, and Hermione. He gave 60 to Harry, 50 each to Ron and Hermione. And this year they did the same thing again. They saved the school again. And I realized that the stakes are a tiny bit higher, but he gives 150 more points. Okay, they're higher. The stakes are higher, but he still saves the school last year and this year. And he gives 150 more points for essentially doing the same thing. I don't get it. I don't get the point system
for saving the school.
They saved the school twice. Why aren't they given the same amount of points twice? Why does they have to give so many more?
Because Albus is blown away that they did it again.
Was he not blown away? Oh my God.
Well, he's even more blown away that he did it. That they did it 2 years in a row.
It's in Harry Potter's contract that he needs to make more points every year. Okay.
I do agree with you. The scale,
crazy. Where's the scale of points?
There's no scale.
Any guidelines.
I agree. There needs to be guidelines.
Yeah, it's all at the professor's discretion to decide what feels appropriate. So Hermione gets an answer to a really tough question correct, and she gets 5 points in class. But then Harry and Ron deliberately break the rules, put themselves and other students in a lot of danger, and they get hundreds of points for it. It is absolutely up to the discretion of the professor giving the points, which is broken. I agree with that. There needs to be some kind of standard,
some sort of guideline.
Yes.
For the amount of points given or taken away depending on the infraction or, the good thing that people have done. I mean, I want to chalk it up to inflation, but it's Chamber of Secrets. It's the second book, and the points go down in the third and the fourth. This is I think the most amount of points ever awarded, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a good thing that Dumbledore's not around at the end of book 7 to give points.
Wow.
Yeah. As Michelle points out in our Discord, there's point inflation happening. You had to really get on top of that.
Oh, I didn't even
I'm
see
not
that.
denying it.
Michelle and I are on the same wavelength here.
Yeah. So we haven't mentioned Lockhart, but it turns out he got a taste of his own medicine. It's in a real moment of poetic justice. Would not have expected him to come back, but we will eventually get a little bit of an appearance from Gilderoy in a few years' time. Very satisfying. I think by the time it comes around in book 5 and the St. Mungo's chapters, I still feel like he deserves it.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I mean, he's a terrible person.
And what's so funny about this is when Dumbledore announces that they're searching for a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher during the end of year feast, all the teachers cheer.
Good
This guy was
riddance.
not well liked.
Bye. See ya. I will say one thing. If I was at Hogwarts, my personality, I would be sad that there wasn't a Lockhart Valentine's Day party the next year. I would be sad about that. I know a lot of people wouldn't be, but I do love the energy he brought.
But then he could have taken up the mantle and organized
That's true, and
the
I
next
could have
one.
made it better, and I also wasn't a horrible human being. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good plan.
You're not fake. Yeah.
So, yeah, Dumbledore mentions that DADA teachers, see, they're running through him real quickly, and he's going to prepare a note or a job listing. Was this something that we thought twice about. I think Dumbledore is making a point because last year it was Quirrell. This year, Lockhart isn't necessarily the main bad guy, but nevertheless, he's gone. Were we starting to notice a trend, or was this too early?
I didn't notice it when I was first reading the books.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Yeah, it is curious, though, that for 2 years in a row, they're losing their teacher.
Dumbledore 100% knows what's going on. Didn't he interview Riddle?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, it's been happening for like the last...
Oh, no, Dippet did.
Well, no, Dumbledore...
Oh, when he comes back. Yeah,
when he comes back, yeah. But so this has happened at least 10 years in a row. That's the funny thing that we don't realize is it doesn't just start when Harry comes to school. It's been happening ever since Dumbledore and Voldemort met, when Voldemort, I guess, was in his like early to mid 20s. So the funny kind of part about that is Quirrell, who did work at the school prior to last year, was actually the Muggle Studies professor. Who pivoted, who transitioned. And so that's why it's not canon breaking to assume this. But yeah, every DADA teacher has to go. Unfortunately, it doesn't bode well for the next one who we really love.
I do think it's a little sinister that he's like being so flippant and like cheeky about the fact that every DADA teacher like is lost. He's like, oh, haha, another DADA teacher gone.
Another teacher gone.
The only hope is that they resign in choice the way Lupin questionably does.
Right.
Like with their body and selves intact.
But that wasn't in choice though, if we're honest.
No. But I'm saying alive, able to still breathe and know who they are.
But if that's the best case scenario, like what the hell are we talking about?
After 12 years, the thing is Dumbledore himself should do it, but he never would because he's too important. Yeah, it's what do you do with a cursed position? You got to do what you got to do. But considering he hired an outright fraud this year, there's nowhere to go but up.
That's true.
Maybe he should have just like launched a whole new course, like throw out DADA and come up with something DADA adjacent,
like
to
self-protection.
Avoid the curse.
Yeah, kind
right.
of thing.
Andrew Sims for headmaster. That's brilliant.
I'm trying to envision what the interview process for this position looked like for all these people. Because if I were interviewing for this job and I was like, it's usually a question you ask, right? Like, hey,
what's turnover?
What the last person who left this position, like, what was the reasoning for it? What can I do to be more successful or to be successful at teaching this course? And does he warn them? Like, does he try to give them some kind of warning about the position being cursed? Even if it's just hey, just so you know, this position, it carries a lot of stress. There's high turnover. So I just want you to know that.
Do you think he asks? Oh, go ahead.
Asks what?
No, I'm like, do you think he asks, like, are you willing to die? Are you willing to lay your life on the line
this low-paying
for this position?
job?
Yeah.
Job responsibilities include death.
Are you taking care of your mental health?
Most positions at Hogwarts are not lifetime roles, but very, very like you could retire, you could grow old and retire, or in the case of Bins, you're still there. But comparatively, DADA, like he should start listing the job as this is a 1-year engagement. Like just get out ahead of it and say we only want you here for a year.
That's smart, and I wonder if people would be more willing to take it, because I think a lot of people take, seasonal or short-term positions to
pay the bills,
make some money, and then go do something else. So it'd be smart, Eric. It'd be smart.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we also find out at the feast that exams are canceled for everyone. Yay.
Woohoo, I guess.
Once again, what happens to the Newton Owl students? Are they just like out of luck?
They're SOL.
Yeah.
What's funny is exams are also canceled in the final chapter of Half-Blood Prince, too. Of course, this is when Dumbledore's funeral is happening and everything. So I think it could be interesting. We should actually keep track of how often exams are getting canceled at Hogwarts.
Well, it wouldn't be a big deal, except the OWLs are literally how you get a job.
Yeah. Literally.
everyone's future.
And Half-Blood Prince, Ginny's taking her owls. Luna's taking her owls. So
Maybe
what happens?
they just take them over the summer, I guess.
This just results in
Be
an
like if
unqualified,
AP exams were canceled for
Yeah.
Americans.
This just results in an unqualified workforce. Ugh, just
Whoa.
unbelievable.
Because tests
A lot of people don't
mean
need college, by the
everything.
way.
Oh, I know.
A lot of college has become less important. So maybe this is the start of turning a new leaf in the wizarding world when people realize it's more about your
They
experience.
all become
and-
entrepreneurs like Fred and George.
Yes, there you go.
The last note I have here in the doc, I don't know why I put it necessarily. It is a bit of news that I'd like to track, but I was not expecting Chloe's response to it. So I just put down, Percy has a girlfriend.
And I said, I can't believe anyone would date this twat. 'Cause
He
it's
does
true.
kind of suck. And
He sucks so hard, even from the beginning, even
I
before
know.
he's like a ministry sheep.
that's the thing. He only gets worse from here.
And Penelope stays with him the whole time.
I know.
They get married.
I don't think he marries Penelope Clearwater.
Doesn't she?
He
Oh,
does get
is that not
married,
canon?
but it's somebody named Audrey, I think.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so she doesn't stay. Power to her.
But listen, she's a Ravenclaw, and I think maybe prefect. He's a Gryffindor prefect. They met in the prefect's bath or something, Who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
they were
Who
using
knows?
the prefect's bathroom.
bath.
Which is in Hogwarts Legacy, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
The one bathroom at Hogwarts they met in. I just went in there the other night in the mission. It was great. To get a demiguise statue.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so many fan fictions. Feel free to cut this out because it'll be salacious. But what the students get up to in the prefect's bath, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
The boarding
100%.
school vibes. And Percy and Penelope, if Ginny had walked in on them in the prefect's bath, like woof, is what I'll say, I guess.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
prepared to say that anyone doesn't deserve love or a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
No. Yeah, and he's redeemed. We like Percy in the end.
Yeah, he redeems himself.
Maybe
in
Audrey
the 11th
made
hour.
him a better person. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what Andrew said something really important there, which is let's believe in people's capacity, not just for change, but to make each other better.
Yeah,
through their
100%. 100%. I think Penelope was, the one that like fixed him a little bit and then made him ready for Audrey.
Fixed them.
This is becoming unhinged. Must be a Weasley from the Discord just said the wrong kid died.
Oh
Wow.
my
I
God.
can't.
You know what?
Mercy. Oh my God.
That's
Good
unhinged.
for you for being brave enough to say what we're all thinking.
Whoa. I do
would
not
pick
subscribe
Fred
to that.
over Percy any day of the week.
He is not
Eric.
your child, okay? You can't pick a child. You can't do it.
We would all pick Fred.
Yeah.
Living, you mean?
I think
Yes,
so.
to
Yeah.
live. Yes.
I wouldn't. No, there's already two of him. He's
Fred is-
expendable.
that's
that's a strong take, Eric.
Look, I only
Strong
say,
and reasonable
I say
take.
that for shock value. It's not. I wouldn't.
I think this is all
condemn.
for shock value.
Yeah. I wouldn't condemn any one of the Weasley kids to death.
No, me neither.
No, but yeah, talking about making people better, or what you said about Penelope clearing the way, like making Percy dateable or marryable. That really happens in real life.
It does.
It's very rare that somebody's first relationship is one that is like a successful marriage.
Right.
And a lot of that is to do with how to be dateable, how to interact with somebody on a romantic level. And it's all a learning experience. So what I'm saying is I don't disagree, but I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with the progression of.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shots have been fired in various directions. This is a great way to end our coverage of this book.
I can already hear people typing furiously to send us emails about how horrible we are.
And the DMs that I will get about
there's any-
how
if there's any
Chloe was
explanation-
so unhinged.
Just in case anyone was wondering, apparently the wrong kid died was a reference to Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story movie. In case anyone picked up on that.
I did not pick up on that.
Can't say I did.
Yeah.
200 points to anybody who did pick that up.
No, 400.
400.
No, 600.
There's no scale. Who cares? 600. Do I hear 8? All right, let's move on to MVP of the week. Like I said earlier, I'm giving it to Dumbledore for being a critical father figure to Harry in his time of need in this chapter, and slyly putting Lucius, however you say it, in his place.
Well deserved.
Harry was really down in this chapter. Am I a Gryffindor? Am I a Slytherin? And Dumbledore gave him the speech he really needed to hear, and it was dead on.
They're all in McGonagall's office, not Dumbledore's like in the movies, but Dumbledore sends McGonagall out to prepare a feast. Nevertheless, she goes and does it. So good on McGonagall for not having any pride there and doing what is needed. The kids need their happiness. They need their food.
I'm going to give mine to Dobby. Y'all know that I love Dobby. I love that he gets this moment so early in the series. He's the reason that Harry puts everything together and understands the connection between Voldemort, Tom Riddle, and the diary, as well as the connection between all of them and Lucius. And he does it even though it's pretty dangerous for him to be doing. He gets his freedom in this chapter, and he ultimately becomes one of Harry's fiercest allies for the rest of the series. So, got a rep for Dobby.
I'm giving mine to the Sword of Gryffindor, which I've decided is okay to do.
Yes, inanimate objects are totally
approve.
acceptable.
But for representing, Harry being a true Gryffindor and Harry's bravery and strength in the chamber, even though in my head he's a Slytherin, I'll give it to the Sword of Godric Gryffindor.
Next week, we will do our big Hogwarts Legacy review. We've been playing it for a couple of weeks now, and we'll all be here to discuss what we think of this big new Wizarding World video game. And of course, it's going to be episode 600, so it'll be nice to step off chapter by chapter for a week and talk about this brand new game and celebrate 600 episodes of MuggleCast. If you have any feedback about today's episode or the book on a whole or Prisoner of Azkaban coming up or Hogwarts Legacy, send an L to mugglecast@gmail.com or use the contact form on mugglecast.com. You can also send a voice message. Just record it using the voice memo app on your phone and then email us that file. Or you can use our phone number, which is 1-920-3-MUGGLE. That's 1-920-368-4453. It's been a few weeks since we've done a Muggle Mail episode, maybe after our Hogwarts Legacy review. We'll see. Nothing's set in stone yet, but maybe. And now it's time for Quizzage.
Last week's question, thanks to Micah for devising it. What does Fred drop on George's head after he learns that Percy has a girlfriend? The correct answer was a stack of books. And correct answers were submitted by Amandine, Artemis Fido Jr. II, Bang-Ended Scoots, Boobatuber Puss, Buff Daddy, Callie Loves Quizzich, Dobby's Slimy Sock, Elizabeth K., Fred's Left Buttock, Giggle Jiggle Giggle Jiggle Miggle, Grubbly Plank Crookshank, Hogwarts Safety Inspector, Manchester Muggle, Marbled Root Vomit, Momo Lovegood, Ravenclaw from Waxhaw, and She Who Shall Not Be Named. Congratulations, everybody. Love those names. Next week's question. We're going to look ahead just a little bit towards Prisoner of Azkaban. What witch performed a flame freezing charm, allowing herself to be burned at the stake at least 47 separate times? The correct answer is Chloe's favorite character.
True. I want a spin-off of this answer, just so everyone knows.
Oh, yeah. I'll message you. I just had a thought about that. So submit your Quizzitch answer to us over on the MuggleCast website, mugglecast.com/Quizzitch, or click on Quizzitch from the main nav bar.
We've only made it to 599 episodes thanks to support from listeners like you. Special shout out to those who support us at patreon.com/MuggleCast and also over on Apple Podcasts, where we have a subscription option as well. On both Apple Podcasts and Patreon, you get ad-free and early access to MuggleCast. And then over on Patreon, you also get bonus MuggleCast installments, our live stream access, exclusive access to our Discord and Facebook groups, the MuggleCast Collectors Club, a new physical gift every year. There's different benefits depending on what level you pledge at. So check it all out at patreon.com/MuggleCast. And if you love the show, we would love a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And then Chloe, where can people follow us on social media?
Well, everyone should absolutely follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We post fun memes. Voldemort on a beach apparently is going to be up there. There's a better version now. Yes.
I missed that new one.
Yeah, there's a safe for work version.
I know Nagini has like a little hat.
Oh my God. I'm looking at Nagini with the hat.
Everyone, please go follow us. I answer our DMs and our comments, and we have a lot of fun on social. So if you need more MuggleCast during the week when you've already listened to the episode, go check us out there.
I would like this new art to be our album art.
I like this. Yeah. Yeah, me too. You can just see in big bubble letters, I need a vacation.
Yes, for episode 600, we are changing our album art, and it's going to be this one.
Greetings from Albania.
Yes.
Did you know it's sunny here? I genuinely had no idea.
And pretty, very pretty.
I think I was thinking like Transylvania in my head.
Yeah. Very, very vibes.
I mean, because if Voldemort's going there, it must be dark and gloomy and not great. But apologies to anybody listening from Albania or nearby.
People do.
Chloe, it's been great having you on. Thanks so much for joining us again. We look forward to your next appearance.
I love y'all. Thanks for having me.
We love you too. You're a perfect fit here on the show and as our social media manager. So thank you so much for everything you do for the show. And listeners, if you loved Chloe today, definitely check out MuggleCast, like she said, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Even if I really pissed you off.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you did.
Is hate following such a thing? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
It is. Absolutely. 100%.
Go hate follow us, please.
Yeah. You can hate follow us, just don't DM hate.
No.
Yeah.
That's uncool.
Yeah, we won't tolerate that.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's episode. We'll be back next week with episode 600.
Woohoo!
I'm Andrew.
I'm Eric.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Chloe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.